Hello, everybody. It's Friday night and it is Weekender time once more. And we've a jam-packed show ahead of you with all the best in hobby and gaming news from across the industry. On this week's show, you can also win a Warsaw Pact starter force for Team Yankee from store.ontabletop.com. If you want to be in with a chance to win the BMP Motor Rifle Battalion, then you need to be a subscriber to the channel. Pop a comment below. And if you can share us and like us as well, that would be terrific. Don't forget to ding Warren's dong. Otherwise, sit back, relax, crack open a brew, because your weekend starts here. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Weekender. I'm joined this week by Shay, John, and Ben to take you through all the interesting things that have cropped up this past week in the world of tabletoppings. How are you guys doing?
Doing well.
Yes,
Yeah,
we're going
decent.
we're only going to talk about tabletoppings. So it's just all the things that you put on top of your lovely dining room table. Yeah, so.
Things like that. Anyway, I digress. We're going to kick things straight off into the show with the most important part.
Oh, yeah.
The Indie of the Week.
Oh.
And this week, it's a bit of the pew-pew.
Oh, West. This was a doozy as well.
Yeah, I was shocked we got this far without mentioning it.
Or if we have, we're revisiting it, I guess. But there we go.
No, we were, because I went looking extensively, going,
wow,
we must have. Surely we've done Knuckleduster miniatures.
Yeah.
And the answer to that was no, you haven't. You terrible, terrible people. So Knuckleduster are all about the Wild West. Well, I say all about the Wild West. Sometimes the North Americans in the 1800s, but we'll get to that. We will get to that. The big thing is Gunfighter's Ball for them, which is a Wild Westy skirmishy game. And it's an interesting set of rules to begin with. From what I've read, it was sort of more or less written out of a set of convention game rules where you'd be playing with multiple people, and you wanted games to be quick, easy to pick up, fast playing, without a ton of rules that people were worried about. And to that end, they came up with Gunfighter's Ball, which plays out on a sort of a 3x3 and has very few stats to be looked at. In most cases, all you really have is how many actions your gunfighter has when they activate, and then how many bullets you have for your guns. And then they've got other things that you can add in as optional extras, but it means when you're playing, players are using one or two miniatures aside. If you want to play a 1v1 with friends, then you can play, obviously, up 6 aside yourselves, because you're still not managing a huge amount of stuff. But it's the miniatures to begin with. You can see here a whole host of factions, bad guys, scoundrels, sidekicks. We'll take a closer look through the single miniatures, because a lot of them are based on TV and film of yesteryear, or even modern day stuff. I believe the Magnificent Seven appear twice in both flavors. So looking then at the individual figures. Bum, bum, bum. There we are. Now, they do show you the renders on the big images, which is, all well and good. I know often people see these and go, but what do the actual figures look like? I've bought quite a few of the Knuckleduster miniatures.
Much like that.
And they're cast in single piece metal. So anytime you see a render, it's just cast exactly as is. Sometimes they look a little bit funny, like things are a little bit pronounced. That's because whenever you cast in metal, there's a slight shrinkage in the features. So sometimes what looks on a 3D render like a more prominent piece of a sculpt, it's not that prominent when you actually see the miniature in your hand. So I wouldn't worry about that. But starting off with the likes of these delightful characters, when you're playing your games, you've got civilians as an option. It might be baked into the core rules, actually, just not the basic rules. So whenever you start kicking off in a main street in some cow town on the Wild West, and you're shooting at him and they're shooting at you, and the bystanders are either running or screaming or getting involved or stabbing you in the back or trying to take the boots off your dead friend. You just don't know what a bystander is going to do until you skin those smoke wagons and go to town. As one man once said. So there's a terrific set of figures across the board. Ace Kilkenny is just absolutely gorgeous. For
anybody. You, Jerry, that's why.
I wish I was Lemmy.
You're close enough. You're close.
Yeah, well, I'm getting there. Maybe I can just do that. Yeah. Feel mutton chops at some point. But because you're playing in the sort of the core game, the basic game, you're playing with just figures that you are naming and making stuff up about yourself. There's not a specific group or faction or stat line that you have to worry about. You can more or less pick and choose, which means if you want to do an Emilio Estevez-esque Billy the Kid with his bowler hat, actually that's based on the real Billy the Kid from that photograph, which Emilio based his dress on. The bathtub belligerent.
Respect that.
Yeah.
Always armed.
Yeah. If you're going to shoot. I think is the phrase after the guy comes in looking for him. You've got the Duck, the coward who refused to go and fight in the Second World War. He did. It's true.
Yeah.
Johnny Ringo, obviously played by Michael Biehn, Wyatt Earp, Kurt Russell, they're all there, and there are currently 12 pages of these. And they cross a whole slew. So if you're looking to build your town up and have blacksmith working outside the blacksmith shop, your poor shopkeeper watching his establishment being shot or beaten to pieces, or in fact, if you're a fan of things like Blazing Saddles, the entire Blazing Saddles are kicking around in here, including Mungo, and they do mounted versions of people on horses. Mungo comes mounted on an ox, riding into town as he would. And they are just such a beautiful set of sculpts across the board. I
think one of the really nice things about the range is something that you mentioned earlier, where it's that mix of both the Hollywood style of Wild West character, spaghetti Western character kind of thing, and then also taking cues from their historical counterparts. Because it's really awesome when they do like their breakdowns on Facebook and they sort of talk about how they've chosen this particular aspect from the movie, but then they've added this bit because that's what they would have had if they were actually riding around on the frontier. So they've added bits of kit and all that kind of things, which is really nice.
And being able to have Teddy Roosevelt alongside the outlaw Juicy Wheels, which is a Clint Eastwood character I don't yet own, which is, I think, a crying shame.
As Jerry adds to cart.
Right now. I picked up The Stranger recently, which is him from Pale Rider, because then he can go up against my Dead Man's Hand, Cogburn's Pinkertons. Because that's very important to me, that I own all the things all the time. We know this.
The other thing that sometimes people look at the range and be like, about proportions and scale and all that kind of thing. They're on the slightly more, as you normally say, I think it's like heroic side of 28, I think is the way they view it. But that just means that they kind of line up with pretty much all of the other ranges that are out there, essentially. I think if you're going to be looking at some of the more, I don't know, actually. I think most of the Wild West ranges out there are pretty much in the same vein, actually.
Dead Man's Hand plastic?
Yeah, so that's pretty much what you're looking at, I think, isn't it? Yeah.
Dead Man's Hand metal?
Yeah.
Knuckleduster metal?
All perfect. There you go.
So, they all match the ranges very, together. Very well.
So if you look at it and you're like, what does large mean? Well, there you go. It's all fine.
Yeah. Before we jump back to the indie, I'm also going to throw out one thing about their the way that they define health in the game. So there's two types of sort of injury.
Right.
You can be sort of, bleeding out, 'tis but a scratch, flesh woundy type thing. And then you can also be seriously, one shot dead. But they do this thing where you get a set of poker chips, and it's like a health bar. And you stack them up in front, and you just cash your chips in. So you take 1 hit, 2 hits, 3 hits. Whenever you hit the red, it's a mortal wound, and at that point you're starting to suffer ill effects as well. And
that's so cool.
Especially if you're playing a game with people who haven't played before, and you're just all at a table at a convention or whatever, and you're just or a club, and you can look across and essentially see the health bar for every player's character, just sort of
great visual indicator.
Yeah. But then they also have, like I say, there's like it's a percentile based game, and there's a D100 chart where you roll on it about triple O to 1 is fatal, just dead. All your chips are gone. Cash them all in. Unlucky. Tell my mom I loved her. Or take a wound to your arm, or end up with a wounded leg, which reduces your movement. So those are all viable things, which is really nice to see, because it gives you sort of a change up as to how stuff works. There's Bushy Bill Roberts, the bounty hunter, shot in a shitter, as we all remember from Young Guns. We do. Remember they sent Charlie Sheen to go and check. Didn't work out well for him. Anyway, I am a fan of Westerns. But yeah, so the miniature range is expanding all the time. And because you don't have to worry about, like I say, factions and the like, if you're just messing around or playing club games, then fill your boots. Go with whatever you want to go with, and you can get some really nice miniatures in there that will either cover favorite films or just the sheer joy of painting cowboys.
Yeah. The other thing that you were saying earlier that's quite good as well is you said that to re-emphasize it, they do the mounted and dismounted versions of pretty much all of their like big characters. So in a game where you want to be riding around on horseback and then dismounting and shooting stuff, having the ability to just switch out the models is great. So you'll see sometimes they'll release things like the Plains Warriors mounted set, and then a month later you'll get the dismounted set as well. So it's a great little collection.
So I mean, there's the coward version of Rooster Cogburn. Obviously, there's the Kurt Russell version as well, which is much better. And then there's 7 reasons, or 6 reasons the West was wild. Isn't that the tagline for the first Young Guns? And obviously they all, have the foot version as well. When you're playing the game, you can mount and dismount and mess around. You can pick up the quick reference and a cut down version of the rules for free on the website. So, like I said, it's a percentile based game, and it's tight. Oh, Lordy, she's tight. It's a 3x3 you play on generally, which means people are in and fighting very quickly, because it's percentile based. And you're just really counting the number of bullets you have in your gun, unless you've got a special ability, or maybe you're a hired gunfighter or somebody who gets plus 10% on your roll. Point blank range is 1 inch away for a pistol, or for most things actually. So you really are up close. And then once people start firing, pistols can be fired like 3 times. So, 60% or less, maybe with modifiers, maybe without. If there's any sort of negative modifiers, it's generally like half. But you only do it once. So if somebody's behind cover and blah, blah, they played a card on you to reduce it again, you'll only do it once. You'll be down to 30%. You just roll your percentile dice. And then brawling is something similar. There's your wound chart. So there you go. All your chips for the headshot, neck, hands, so on and so forth.
That's cool.
So it uses percentile D6 and a D3 for various things. The one thing I will say I'm not a fan of is it does use D10 for movement. You get 2 actions a turn, and anybody who's ever seen me roll will know I get really annoyed whenever I move 1 inch every turn, and then somebody
rolling for movement is never a good idea.
Never good. That would be the one thing I would either change or modify in some way. Maybe you've got 2 actions. Maybe your first one is 5 inches plus half a D10, so a D5. And then that way you're still only moving a maximum of 10, but you're moving a minimum of 6.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
And then your second action is just a straight D10 roll, just because watching my entire gang, posse, or crew sitting
Shuffle
at the back
forward.
of the board, very slow. And if you got something like, because like I said, there are optional decks and rules where you can add in bits and pieces like buffs and debuffs, so you can draw these cards that you can play on yourself or play on your opponents. And like, if all of a sudden you turn up to a gunfight and one of your guys has got a wooden leg and he's moving -2 inches, all of a sudden that's a for me, I mean, that's most of the dice rolls. He's not going to be moving. He's just going to be standing there because maybe he stuck his peg leg in a prairie hole and he's just going in a circle because he's not going forward or backwards.
He'll sit this one out. Yeah.
But it's really interesting. You've got this card draw system, so your initiative is based on a randomized card. Everybody will have a different card, and then the number of cards that you have, how quick your character is, in the deck will be specified. So most people have like 2. So let's say at the start of the game, we drew 2, 3, 4, 10 as our cards. So you put them in front of your player, and then you might have 2 of each of those cards in a deck, and you construct a deck. And when those cards are drawn, you take your actions. And when the deck is spent, then you reshuffle, and that's the end of a turn. But there's something you can do called Ace in the Hole. So that card in front of you that's reminding you what your initiative is, you can also use it to interrupt out of sequence.
Ooh, yeah.
So you flip that card over, and so maybe the bank robbers come running in front of you. You flip your card, shoot them in the back. Because it's the only way to deal with bank robbers. They all knew the risks. However, it means the next time your card is drawn, you don't take an action, you just re-ready your previous card. So you're taking an action from the future to use out of sequence now to gain some advantage. So yeah, a fascinating little Western game for people who are interested in playing out these sort of smaller skirmish games. And you can see there the basic rules. So they've added on these sort of layers of extra frippery.
I love that, dude.
That you can add in or not.
Help me.
Yeah. Well, crawling's a D3 when you have been shot or you've been kneecapped. So quick drawing, going out of action. So it's worth a look to see what other bits and pieces that can be added in. So you might want to add in things like the buff and debuff deck, which is completely optional. Something you can pick up. If you don't want to play with it in your games, don't play with it in your games. There, instead of that D100 chart, there's a deck of cards that have most of them in there that you can shuffle and draw instead. And then, considering I'm always going to be rolling lots of really low, terrible numbers, they'll be headshotting all of your opponent all the time. So if I do ever finally hit, they're dead. At that point, you go, well, draw a card instead. That'll be better. They do also obviously do terrain as well. So if you haven't got your hands on any Wild Westy things, you can, there's where Brishy built out. Then you can put together your own cowtown. Mostly laser cut MDF, but then also you can see that they've used metal casting to do detail work on some of them as well. So putting more intricate window frames and stuff in, having your saloon, your little Adobe jail.
That's the back of that's gonna come off. Just get some strong horses and some chains.
just pull it just straight through the bars in the window and away you go. Look, you can see where other Underworlds have attempted to blow it open. And they've just got through one. Yeah. There's no point in doing that. You'll get shot in the back again.
Stop putting holes in my jail.
Always shoot people in the back all the time. So that is the westerny, the Knuckledustery side of Knuckleduster miniatures. But they do have another side, which is the War of 1812, which is interesting because it's one that we kind of gloss over on this side of the pond because obviously the Napoleonic Wars are running at the same state and there's a lot more people involved and there are a lot bigger battles closer to home. So whenever people think about early 19th century warfare, it generally goes towards France and what they're up to. However, there was obviously the War of 1812, so 3 years, 1812, 1814, 15. Britain was fighting on two fronts. They were fighting the Napoleonic Wars, and then they were fighting against America in the War of 1812. I'm not saying Britain started it, but they did press gang American citizens who were too far north occasionally.
I think in general you can
Navy.
probably say Britain did start it. Yeah, I think it's a safe bet.
It's one of those, we want to expand further west. The Americans go,
Yeah.
no, and then the British go, you know what, your citizens are sailors now. Laughs in British while twirling moustache. But it's a really nice set of 1812 miniatures. Obviously, the British side could be used for Napoleonics as well. But then you've got all the American. So you've got your militias and your regular army, as much as they were. And there are some really nice figures in there. So are Virginian and Colombian. So musket and shot fans, or Canadian fans. I believe there are some specific Canadian miniatures in the British section as well, which is always nice to see.
Yeah.
Anybody who's not aware of the fun that was had during the War of 1812, it's where the White House gets its name.
Okay.
Because the British got really annoyed, sailed up the river, burnt the White House, and sailed off. And so that because it wasn't white beforehand, but to cover up the scorched damage from the British Marines and Army, they whitewashed it, and it's been stayed that way ever since.
There we go.
So yeah. That's how you show them. I don't know who.
It's nice that they have, again, a good deep selection of stuff for you to choose from for this as well.
It's not what I want.
Yeah.
I mean, when you get into it, you've got the British infantry, obviously.
All the different flavors of British. Yeah.
Your Canadians.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the standard stovepipe shako, very familiar to Napoleonic players. Just goes right up and down. Big, nice flat hat on it. The Belgic shako, I don't know if anybody wore it particularly much in the British Army in Napoleonics. I think it was sort of skipped. Essentially, it's got a peak at the front that comes over the top of the stovepipe. So it's a very minor thing. And it wasn't worn for particularly long, but got more of an airing out in the Americas. And obviously when the Napoleon was defeated the first time, it freed up an awful lot of British troops to go across to America and reinforce that. And then when he came back for the 100 days and post because the treaty was signed then, and then not ratified, but that meant when he returned for the 100-day campaign, there was an awful lot of troops coming the other way that had been sort of carved off.
Never-ending war for those poor soldiers. Yeah. So.
And your Highlanders, for people who want to paint tartan but think painting tartan on a kilt is too much hassle, why not paint it onto trousers instead? Say to you,
even more angles for you to deal with.
Yeah. You do you, people. You do you. But yeah,
that's awesome. Really cool.
The British infantry line, obviously. I mean, we see a lot of British infantry quite often. British Marines are really nice, though. Again, because in most cases, it's the hats that sell them. So the British Marines have very distinctive hats compared to the infantry. I'm trying to find. I remember at one stage Warren was looking for the short, stocky hats of the British Marines, and I can't remember why. So really,
probably for some game that he was trying to create. I guess.
Yeah, it's possible. But who knows what he's up to? And then we have the Canadians, and the Canadians obviously
the Canucks. Yeah,
played a fair bit of it. So it's really nice to see a substantially large amount of them that can be fielded. And again, when you get people, obviously, regionally, obviously the Canadians will want to do stuff closer to home. You don't always want to be playing some foreign war elsewhere. So it's nice to see the range covered by them. But yeah, the Americans and the Canadians are utterly gorgeous. There is one other thing I want to point out before we disappear away from Knuckleduster, and it is the books. There's our books. So they do a couple of books. Gunfire's Ball is the one we've mostly been talking about, which is the sort of the main one. However, Desperado is a reprint of an older game, and it's a skirmish game more based around skirmishing bands of people. The Knuckleduster edition is a reprint with some new bits added. You can still play the original from the early 90s, or there's other bits and bobs in it. It's relatively small, sort of maybe 4 or 5 man bands, but again, written with the idea that it's a simple, fast-paced game for conventions. So even though people are playing with little bands of Mexicans or outlaws or whatever, you can have a group of people. So if you're not after just one model on a tabletop per person, then Desperado might be the way to go. And then the Cowtown creator.
Sounds amazing.
I may or may not have ordered a copy of this. It is, if you want to do a Western RPG, 250 pages of guides to what the Old West was like, period photos, floor plans, name generators, first, last, and nicknames, and all sorts of bits and bobs in there as well. Yeah. So not needed in any way, shape, or form for any of the other games. However, if you're interested in doing some Old West RPGing, then that's possibly one to have a look at.
Definitely. Yeah.
I'm going to say if you're in the UK, Abe's Books, ABES, has got the cheapest version of it on this side of the water, because that website's American. Yeah. And also, if you're in the UK, Cavalier Press carry the Knuckleduster range. So easier to get it that way than it is to get it directly from the States. If you're in the EU, I'm not sure if it's cheaper to import from America or from the UK these days. Pay your money, take your chances. But definitely, if you're interested in giving the Old West a bit of a go, it's a different game or different style of game from things like Dead Man's Hand or Legends of the Old West. I like the fact that none of the Western style games that I own overlap on each other too much. You've got like very light single character. You've got weird 3-act cinematic, and then you've got essentially Lord of the Rings, the Old West.
Pretty much. Yeah.
So which is all character based and cheating. Yeah. But yeah, definitely worth checking out Knuckleduster just for the range of Clint Eastwood's.
Yes, it is extensive.
It's fairly extensive. I want to do High Plains Drifter. Obviously, you are all aware of High Plains Drifter. I'm just going to tell people at home who aren't. So in High Plains Drifter, spoilers, by the way, for a film that came out in the 70s, he plays the ghost of a murdered sheriff who comes back to a town just before the 3 people who murdered the sheriff are due to get out of jail. They originally were working for the town, and then they double-crossed them after they killed the sheriff and sent him away. So they're all panicking. The stranger arrives. They don't realize it's the dead sheriff, and he convinces them to paint the whole town red, put out a big welcome table for them, and writes "Welcome to Hell." And I just want a board like that. Most of the buildings painted red, some of them not painted red because they didn't get far enough down the town. Little Malachi, dwarf guy, makes the sheriff and the mayor. At one point, they're giving Clint everything, and then when it looks like they're going to run rampant through the whole town, Clint comes out with a whip and just does them all over. It's great. It's an amazing film.
Sounds great. Yeah.
It is. It's excellent. It's based on, I think, the book or original script. It was meant to be the brother of the sheriff, and they don't recognize it. Clint changed that to being a bit more mystical woo-woo. You don't really know. Is it the dead sheriff? Is it not? Kind of thing. In Clint's version, it really is just dead sheriff. Anyway, enough Western. Let's move on. Take a look at some news.
Coming to you from the center of Northwestern Europe. Covering board games, war games, card games, and all that you love. It's the news.
Okay, we're back for the news. And we're going to be kicking things off with Osprey. Because, my God, they've been chucking out news left, right, and centre.
They really have, yeah.
Can't stop them.
Yeah, Joseph McCullough just doesn't stop, apparently. He is a machine. So this week was the announcement of a whole host of McCullough-themed war games that are going to be coming out over the next year from the folks at Osprey. We start with Stargrave. Now, this was teased and previewed last year, so it's not a massive bit of news, but this is the new Side Hustle card pack. It's going to be coming out soon. This comes with a whole host of cards for you to dive into, which will allow you to sort of add side missions and side objectives, maybe hidden or revealed to everyone at the table for use in your games. So if you really like the idea of kind of going down the route of ulterior motives, as was added to Frostgrave not too long ago, there you go, then you can pick up Side Hustle very soon. I think it's March release for that, and you'll be able to add that into your games and have some fun teasing your opponents. Why do you keep going after that guy at the back?
No reason.
What's in that building that the opponent seems so intrigued about? So,
That's fine. We're all fine here. I have a copy of Side Hustle, so I'll be doing a little unboxing review on it shortly. So yeah, likewise, when Ulterior Motives came out, there were like 6 specific objectives that you sort of needed, like a doorway, a portal, a well, a trapdoor, a zombie, and something else. Side Hustle has something similar, so there'll be objectives that you can probably pick up from North Star specifically for it, or you can just, as long as you've got some additional objectives that don't get mixed up with your data and regular loot tokens on the tabletop. But it's a nice little deck, not as big as Ulterior, I won't say that.
No, it's a little wee card pack.
Amount of cards, yes, there's the same amount of cards, but the deck is not this thing the size of a small book. So, you've got more room to play with.
Definitely worth taking a look at that, especially if you play a lot of Stargrave all the time. Carrying on from that, there's also going to be a release of Bold Endeavor, which lands in October this year for us in the UK, and then January 2024 for the US. This is a big new campaign style book for you to dive into, with a whole bunch of quirky, weird things for you to dive into and have fun with. The kind of sort of focus around this one is you going beyond the bounds of the known galaxy and exploring new frontiers. Although I think there's a lot more guns than in Star Trek, but there we go. There's also going to be, there's a whole host of new scenarios for you to play that will sort of play around with alien technology and that kind of stuff. Maybe, changing gravity and all sorts of quirky things. But there's also some new bits and pieces in there for new technology and new weapons and new equipment. There's also new crew options in there as well, and unexpected events that might happen to you as you're going about your business.
If you go to Zahadum, you will die. Just say that. Sometimes stay where you're known.
Exactly.
Go beyond the rim.
I'm just going to say, if there's a big alien monolith on a planet, don't let your scientists near it, because they will touch it and it will blow up or do something terrible. So there we go. As well as that, we're moving away to the realm of fantasy with Frostgrave, and we have the new book, which is Into the Wildwoods.
Rawr.
And this is, it's got big polar bears in it. This is sort of stepping beyond the safe bounds of Felstad, where you've currently been exploring and adventuring with your wizards and apprentices, and you'll be heading into the Wildwoods around the Frozen City, where things are just as creepy and weird and terrifying and horrible. There's going to be new monsters, new soldier types, new spells, new artifacts, and loads of new rules added in there as well to kind of give this kind of survival vibe to things. So you're going to be out there in the Wildwoods as things are getting colder and darker and creepier and more shadowy.
You know why he's really, really angry?
We stole his picnic basket.
No, he's actually an albino black bear. Look, he's got pink eyes.
Oh, yeah.
And somebody obviously released him into the frozen north thinking he'd strayed. And now he's woke up and he's freezing. Absolutely freezing. I'm foundered. All of you people have to die.
Yeah. So watch out for that later this year as well. Going to be awesome to dive into. That's June. There we go. And then last but not least, for at least this little portion of things from Joseph McCullough, we have a new book coming out for the Silver Bayonet, which is their fantastic Napoleonic horror skirmish game. Really, really good fun. If you haven't seen it, make sure you go and check out our themed week we did, which was a lot of fun to dive into.
Yes, we did. We did that. I remember that.
We did, yeah. In fact, we've done a theme week for all 3 of those games that we talked about today. But this one is the Carpathians' Castle Fear. And it will have your specialist unit of Napoleonic soldiers that have been drafted together to hunt down monsters, heading into a castle to hunt down strange and eerie monsters that live within it. You got to clear it out, but I think this castle might be home to a vampire or 2. So if you're looking for some more horrifying adventures in the Carpathians, then make sure to check this out, which is coming out later this year as well. So yeah, really good fun for that. As Jerry was saying, North Star tend to do a lot of stuff around these games as well. So watch out for pre-orders and miniatures and all sorts of different things like that.
And also, additional scenarios and bits and bobs in the download section on the Osprey website.
Yeah,
that's one that often catches people out, because we played the Normandy.
You did?
Castle Vita.
The Unlikely Alliance.
Yeah. And a lot of people were going, I have these games. I was unaware there were bonus scenarios on the website. They do quite a lot of additional bits and pieces over on the Osprey website. So it's worth going and having a poke if you've already got the games to see if there's anything new and exciting on there that you can beg, borrow, or steal to use in your games anyway.
Very much so. Yeah. There's also another game that has been sort of teased and previewed. There's going to be more details on this in the coming weeks, but another game that is arrived on the Osprey Games web store and everyone's been a little bit excited about is The Doomed Apocalyptic Horror Hunting. So this is their new grim, darky, sci-fi, sci-fantasy style skirmish game, where you're going to be assembling a team of hunters, as some of what you can see there. Got some 40k vibes going on. And you are sent out to hunt down massive demonic monsters that are rampaging across the world.
No, thank you.
The cool thing about this is that it's got competitive elements to it and everything as well. So that's a really awesome way of doing it. So you're not only having to contend with the massive horrors, but also the other teams that are trying to hunt down these big beasties at the same time. Another really awesome thing about this game is that it's very much focused on the whole kind of kit bash conversion style ethos that we've got going on at the moment. So if you like just bashing kits together, having fun with plastic, metal, resin, and all that kind of thing, creating really interesting and diverse warbands and stuff, this is probably going to be the game for you. Make sure to come and have a look at this one and see what you think. Maybe you've got a couple of those Frostgrave kits sitting around, loads of bits left on there, and you've got a bit of 40k lying around at the same time. Bring them together. There you go.
A very distinctly crusadery style.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, I suppose full play actually, so less crusade, more War the Roses. But his flashlight gun, I don't think is going to stop that. And that shield is not big enough, matey boy.
No, yeah. And then that Stormcaster Tunnel with a Gatling gun. Why wouldn't you get one of those? There you go. But yeah, watch out for more on the Doomed in the future. It's going to be very, very cool, I think. So,
yeah, fascinating. Maybe a slight teaser last week in the indie, if you pick it up. Yeah. I'm looking forward to the Doomed. Hoping to do
very much so.
A bit about that as well in the future, because it looks very exciting. And different from Osprey as well. I like how they've also split Joe off into his own little thing.
He's his own entity now.
Yeah. We have our Wargame series, and then we have Joe McCullough.
He's become self-aware.
It was only a matter of time. Even things like the Carpathians heading off vampire hunting. It's time to break out all the gorgets and beavers that have been sitting in museums for some time. Maybe you'll survive the night.
Exactly.
Hunting through Castle Fear at a completely separate and distinct, not Dracula.
Yep.
Because if the mouse is coming up on public domain, surely Vlad must be getting there as well.
Yeah.
But, Anyway, where to next?
Next up, we're going to be looking at some new stuff coming out from Grey for Now Games. They have created Test of Honor, which is a fantastic samurai skirmish game, but they also recently released last year 0200 Hours, which is their skirmish game set around kind of infiltrating and fighting behind enemy lines during World War II. They came out with the core game last year alongside some plastic sets that were created by Wargames Atlantic. But they are now going to be working on creating their first big expansion for the game, essentially, which is the Partisan one. And this comes with, as you might have guessed by the name, some partisans. So you've got your French resistance fighting it out on the tabletop. There, huh? Exactly, yeah. These are going to be available to add into your sort of squads as they go behind enemy lines and to take out German communications and the like. Whenever you add one of these characters into your squad, they will come with a plan card that is attached to them, and as well as their own special rules and everything that you can see there. So they're going to be handy in a fight, as it were. But maybe you want to add Edith into the mix, who will be able to set up explosives and blow things up. Why wouldn't you want to blow things up? There are some of the plan cards, as you can see there, which kind of talk through what kind of things you can play around with before and after the game and in between and all that kind of good stuff as well. I really like the chap with the radio. I think he's just tuning into the sports or something, or he's listening to the weather forecast. He's not really helping out with anything. I don't think
he's so incredibly French.
Yes,
cigarette and cravat.
Exactly. Yeah,
so he's almost offensively so.
But there's going to be a set of these miniatures that will come out alongside. The set will also come with some of the plastics from Wargames Atlantic at the same
Partisan,
time. Yeah. And then you'll also have all of the cards and all of the components and everything at the same time as well. So if you are interested in adding the Partisans into your games of 0200 hours, then you will have the chance to do so very, very soon. These should be coming out in the next couple of weeks. So watch out for that. So,
I'll be fascinated to see Partisan Box 2, because the Partisans are listed as box number 1 from Wargames Atlantic.
Yeah, that's true.
And it would not be like them to sneak out a cheeky, here's box 2.
For the box set.
Here's the second plastic range that we haven't had on the planner because we were doing it anyway in conjunction with Grey for Now. So that could be fascinating, because I think the idea behind that is like most of like Cannon Fodder 1 and 2 is male and then female. So the first Partisan box were
there we go. That
was
a good idea.
So Partisan 2 would clearly be female. I also like the fact that a lot of these would work for the Poles as well, for the Polish Rising.
But yeah,
because they've got a lot of them have got the armbands and stuff on, so you just paint those up for the Warsaw Rising and away you go.
Yeah,
and some nice, the Partisan Sniper's lovely.
We looked at them last week, but Wargames Atlantic have been working on French Resistance models and everything like that, so that would be a perfect way to
cycling around on bikes and stuff.
Exactly, yeah. Pick them up and combine them all together. Also, 0200 Hours is a fantastic little skirmish game if you want to play World War II, but very different. So if you don't want to just be playing out the big battles with the tanks and everything like that, and you want to do something a little bit more stealthy, then 0200 Hours is definitely worth having a look at if you are interested in going a little bit of a different direction.
Yeah, I mean, the whole behind enemy lines things,
no tanks, John. No tanks.
The little stealthy missions.
His face when you said the tank.
I mean, you can have a tank, but what it would be is the idea is to break
a piece of cover.
No, it's the prototype mouse, and your unit is being sent in to sabotage it and destroy the plans. Or
it's owned by a very nice German officer who keeps bringing it around to the cafe every so often. Yeah.
I'm going to point out, just for the hell of it, because it does actually fall into the whole Partisan thing, when the Allies were moving into Paris and the Paris resistance started to move around, they were bringing tanks to that fight.
Oh, there you go.
The French had a couple of R-35s or something driving around that they just hidden somewhere in a barn.
Stuck in a barn.
You know, all those barns in Paris.
There's a lot of Paris to cover.
That's true.
Yeah, a lot of outside of Paris. Yeah. It's like anywhere the Eiffel Tower's shadow touches is Paris, isn't it? Isn't that how it works?
That's how it works.
Something like that, anyway.
Everything beyond that is Boulogne.
I'm looking forward to seeing what the Partisans bring.
It'd be really cool.
And we have been talking about 0200 hours. We've been talking about building sub-pens and stuff. Running about and blowing up pump houses. So we may be seeing 0200 hours sooner rather than later. Especially whenever I finish painting these little guys who are sitting on my desk at the moment.
Jerry and I break out the polystyrene and grey paint.
Yep. Yeah, there's a lot of squares in our future. A lot of big chunky blocks. I have a U-boat, and that U-boat is going on a table for a game. Damn it. Anyway.
There we go. So, talking of nautical things, we're also going to be looking at some of the releases that are coming out from Warcradle for February and Dystopian Wars. So there's a couple of new big battle fleet sets that are on the way that mix together, in this case, a big new resin piece alongside some of the existing plastic range that you might have seen. Leading the way is the Avalon Battle Fleet set, as you can see there for the crown. Do you like flying things with your flying things? Well, here's some more flying things, is the way that I'd explain this one.
What is that? It reminds me of one of those marionette shows. Which one?
Oh, it's the Sky Base from Captain Scarlet.
Oh, from Captain Scarlet, yeah. Cloud Base, yeah. That's definitely it. This is very much a set that is designated, flyers only. Everyone else.
There are two subs.
Yeah, there's some subs and some ships, but I think
There's
it's mostly
two
about the
boats.
flies.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah. They also launch fires, to be fair.
They do. Like that, yeah. This is very much around just sending fighters out to annoy everybody else at the table, probably.
Absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Exactly.
It's the American tactic worked quite well in 44.
Flyers and torpedoes, that's all you need to see.
That's the way to go.
Yeah. Especially if, I don't know if the Avalon fleet can be set as Canadian.
I believe it can, actually. I believe you can do some stuff with the Canadian.
They have a special flyer token. The snowbirds, they can be designated, and like you get like a bonus round of extra flyers who just come in and just hammer people. Amazing. It's like every turn you do more damage at extreme ranges. It's great until your opponent gets really, really annoyed.
Yeah. You've also got the Columbia Battle Fleet set, which has been designed for the Union and stuff. So if you like big steamboats and things, you can go down that route and have fun with that.
Hell of a size of a set of paddles on that thing.
Yeah, that's a paddle steamer and a half.
Yeah. Designed as essentially a big floating fortress in many regards. Really? A little bit like an ironclad of the day. Who would have thought it?
Yeah.
But yeah. Be able to play around with that and have fun with it. If you like big guns, though, you probably want to go for the Richter Battle Fleet set, which has been designated for the Commonwealth. A massive gun on what it's essentially the length of the ship, as you can see there. The ship is effectively designed to just be the engine to fire the gun. And they use all sorts of weird technology to even transfer the atomic shells, into the gun itself. Yeah. They also said that if you're a crewman, in the fluff of it, if you're a crewman and you stand outside on the deck when this fires, you'll be atomized. Nice. So probably pays to be indoors when firing that big gun.
I don't think 2 shield generators are going to be enough. I'm still impressed it has broadsides. To be perfectly honest, I just would have went the whole 9 yards. Went nope. You've got shield generators. You've got no broadsides. They don't have the room for broadsides. You've got the gun. It's up to you to make sure that nobody else takes it from you. Which is presumably is why they have all these little hovercraft.
Yeah. So you've got plenty of support craft to help that shit, help the Richter, essentially. It can be built in a variety of different sort of combinations, as can many of the resin ships, and indeed the plastic ships.
It's also flyers as well for the Commonwealth.
So if you're interested in playing around with the Commonwealth, and you've got some options there. Last but not least, for the big Battle Fleet sets, there's also the Top Cappy one, which is playing around with portals. Once more. So this is a portal ship for sending portal ships through portals. Have fun with that. You've got the big new ship, as you can see there, which can launch flyers and all that kind of good stuff as well. And then you have the sort of additional ships that'll be hanging around the sides, making sure that no one gets too close. But yeah, why would you not want to surprise your foes by bringing a ship behind their lines and blasting them to pieces? That's the way to go with this. Who would have thought the Sultanate didn't have more tricks up their sleeve?
Yeah, so. Sending the ships is good. You don't even have to send the ships.
That's true.
Put portal here, put other portal behind your opponent, fire your shells through your portal, exactly. Then you come out the back and hit him in the bum.
Yeah.
Just go unlucky.
It's the way to go.
Sucks to be you.
Yeah. So in addition to those Battle Fleet sets that come with a good mix of different options for you to choose from across those 4 factions, there's also new starter factions that are coming out. So there's going to be starter factions for the Crown, the Imperium, the Commonwealth, and the Enlightened. And they match up with the existing sets that were released last month, or this month, essentially. They came out this month, but were pre-order earlier. So it'll essentially give you good starter options for getting stuck into a little bit of dystopian walls on the tabletop. So if you don't want to go, down the route of having to come up with army lists or anything like that, then this is a good way to go. And then you can use these alongside the videos that we did towards the tail end of last year, where we learned how to play the game as well. So there we go. So some great stuff.
Because these are interesting little starter sets. If you know what you're doing, it's a nice entry point for grabbing extra stuff. But
pretty much, yeah.
If you're brand spanking new, because some of these ships have got like 13 different ways you can build them, there's a ridiculous amount of options, and you're just looking at going, I don't know. So these come with little booklets essentially going, here's what you're building, here's what it does, build these things, play the game this way.
Yeah.
You sit back and fire SRS tokens, you sit back and launch portals behind your opponent, or you drive pell-mell into the middle of them and then pull the handbrake with the Americans, slingshotting yourself around 90 degrees and just broadsiding the world. Whatever it happens to be, it will explain it in a handy dandy place. So that's a nice a nice way of getting into it without having to worry about knowing all the ins and outs and intricacies of the gameplay beforehand.
Yeah.
Or magnetizing the life out of everything.
Yeah.
Nobody got time for that.
We also put together a bunch of kind of starter armor list things last year as well. So if you're looking at these and maybe these allow you to use a selection of these ships, or you use them alongside some of the existing box sets or the big starter sets and things that you can get stuck in and see what Warren and the team put together in that sense as well.
Yeah.
So, very
Choo
good.
choo. I'm about.
Yeah.
Correct. Anywho, Cubicle 7 then.
Yeah.
They're up to some interesting things at the moment.
They really are. We've been having fun with them. You'll see that very soon. But in addition to what fun we had in the Grimdark future, there's also some Grimdark Mortal Realms stuff to dive into very, very soon. So there's a new supplement coming out in the near future from them, which is all about Ulfenkarn. So Ulfenkarn is the city, the cursed city that you'll remember from the Warhammer Quest board game. That came out
that's why
the
it
last
sounds
couple of
familiar.
years. Yeah.
From the vampire ogres and stuff.
Radukar, yes.
Yeah.
This is going to be a book that allows you to play out your games in this city with your mighty heroes of the Mortal Realms. But the twist is that it comes with updates to the Grim and Perilous rules that they have in the game. So normally when you dive into Soulbound, you're essentially like a Marvel superhero, really. You can jump around, kill billions of things in a single hit, bring down lightning and blast things to pieces and that kind of thing. Well, this kind of adds in slightly more pared down versions of the rules that allow you to tinker around with damage in a little bit of a different way and all that kind of good stuff. So it'll mean that it's a lot more deadly for your heroes than it was previously. There's also going to be new archetypes added into the game that reflect the characters that you'll know from Cursed City. So you get things like an exiled noble elf and all that kind of good stuff there too. There's also going to be new monsters, new locations, loads of different things for essentially just playing out entire campaigns in Ulfenkarn, where you're really working as a resistance against Radukar and his vampires that have taken over the city. Talking about as well, there's also going to be 3 periods covered in the book. So there's going to be the period of, as they call it, peril, which is where the city fell and then Radukar took control of it. So it's kind of the time period from the first big box game, really, where, the humans have been sort of enslaved by Radukar and there's like the skeletons walking the streets as, policemen and all that kind of good stuff as well. So it's a proper sort of undercover style mystery. And then you can take things through towards the latter stages of the Cursed City box game, really, where you can play with more vampires that arrive once you've defeated Radukar for the first time. And then as the city falls apart and sort of is dragged into the realm of death as the nadir grows, then you'll be able to play in that sort of period as well, if you wanted to get a little bit more superhero, I suppose. But yeah, some really good stuff in there for people who want to play out grim, dark games of Age of Sigmar Soulbound.
It's interesting. I like the idea of the multiple periods because it lets you, throw them into a city and then just watch it collapse. Society has gone away.
Yep.
And you were society. Sucks to be you.
The great thing for me is that I think it takes you if you wanted to play a game of Soulbound and you were suddenly playing as a Stormcast Eternal, suddenly you can't necessarily walk around in your big spanky, gold armor or anything like that. Not spanky, sparkly. Your sparkly gold
gorgeous,
armor.
like a
you're gonna have to rock something like a robe or use some disguises and all that kind of stuff. And if you start calling down lightning, I think some people are probably going to realize
that is true. They will notice you.
So it's going to be very interesting seeing how people approach that. I think a lot of people are very eager to give it a go. So there we go.
Sweet to the beat. Right. Ravensburger.
Yes. So this one's a little bit different, but
we'd expect nothing less, Ben.
Could this be the big new card game of 2023? So Ravensburger are going to be working on Disney Lorcana. Stay with me. Which is going to be coming out at Gen Con this year with a full retail release during September. Now, very little is still actually known of the game and how it works. But they've been talking about their release and how it's all going to hit the table. So there's going to be a new set of starter decks that are going to be coming out, which are based around different inks, colors, essentially. So you can think of these almost broken down like Magic decks in that regard, where they might do like a black and red deck or a black and green, etc. like that. So they're broken down into the ones you see there. So those are going to be the 3 starter decks that are coming out based around as you might have imagined, Disney characters and their abilities. But then on top of that, they're going to be doing big release sets that will come with loads of packs for you to pick up, accessories like deck boxes and everything else in between. And yes, this is going to be a TCG, a trading card game. Now, my big question about this is, has the time passed for the good old trading card game, or is it still as big in people's minds as ever? Magic is obviously huge and people are still playing that.
It is.
And I know a lot of people enjoy Flesh and Blood. I think that's the other big game that's sort of out there at the moment. But a lot of other card games have kind of moved over to the kind of living card game format now. So I think this is a big push by Ravensburger to do something a little bit different and obviously play around with the Disney license. I think that's probably going to carry it through. But by all accounts, from the little that we do know, mechanically, it actually is meant to be a lot of fun. Will we see a lot of people dive into it? I don't know. But yeah, keep an eye out for that one later this year, I think.
The thing is, everybody has been raised on Disney.
Yep.
You know, whether you're old enough to remember the good Disney, like the Black Cauldron and stuff like that, or you're all about that Let It Go woman, which I've never seen.
Frozen, Jerry, it's frozen.
Sure. I'm going to go out on a limb now and call that Sapphire and Steel, which right off the bat, Sapphire and Steel was a fantastic TV series. If you've never seen Sapphire and Steel, you should go and find that. If you think Doctor Who was good, that was amazing. And I'm kind of offended that the blue-white deck is called Sapphire and Steel. But I'm going to call it now that, like all blue-white decks, they're going to be the worst. Just the absolute worst. I hate blue-white so much.
Did the show not feature, adult Hot Simba and Cinderella then? No, is that not the...
No, it was Joanna Lumley and...
okay.
Ducky from NCIS, Ilya Kuryakin from The Man from U.N.C.L.E. What was his name?
I know who you're on about.
You know who I'm talking about. They were literally Sapphire and Steel.
Oh, there we go.
They were auditors of reality, and they were assigned the sector of time and space that included Earth.
Well,
so they sent out Earth. Cool. It's an amazing show. And it's a complete mind... There's a beat for you, Justin, because it's a head melter. But yeah, card games. I heard that because it was the 30th anniversary of Magic recently, and I heard Wizards kind of screwed the pooch with the direction they went and the releases on that one. And that
apparently, far too many cards in the pool, and it made everything really hard for people who were trying to get their decks together or stay ahead of the meta.
So I mean,
and all that kind of stuff.
Mechanically, if they can do a card game that mechanically works well, and then obviously you've got the whole Disney cash behind that, where you can just go, well, I'll throw this in or I'll throw that in, or I really hope there's Black Cauldron stuff in it. I know there won't be because nobody has seen the Black Cauldron.
Well, they have done lots of different variants of Mickey and stuff, and done like older takes on him and that kind of thing as well. So, I mean, there's a Fantasia version of him in the artwork. So there's a lot of Disney for them to choose from.
There is a lot of Disney to choose. My God, there's a lot of Disney to choose from. I just can't wait to see the little dog from the Black Cauldron and Tron going up against Moana. So I have no idea what's going on.
I think that's going to be the big thing for a lot of people. I think it's going to be that idea of just being able to mash everything together MCU style and just kind of have fun with it. I'm talking about the MCU, they're Disney as well, I suppose. But yeah,
that's true. Yeah,
turn all your favorite Disney characters into murderers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
All the best ones are anyway.
Just
keep
chuck
an eye
all
out
the tunes
for that
together.
One, so,
interesting stuff.
A Gen Con release is normally a sign that they really, really think this is going to work properly. So, we'll see.
Well, yeah, it's always one to keep an eye on to see what's coming at Gen Con, because you never know. You never know. Right, on to a Games Workshop and a lot of news coming.
Yeah. So we're going to be dealing with the pre-orders that are coming up for this weekend. First off, we're going to whiz through these because a lot of this stuff a lot of people have seen before. So there's going to be new battle tomes coming out for the Beasts of Chaos and the Gloomspite Gitz. Yeah. So both of them get the sort of standard release of their battle tome alongside the strangely recolored version as well, as we discussed last week. Just odd, but there we go. You're going to be able to get your hands on these, which will come with updated rules for both of the factions and also updated Path to Glory rules if you want to kind of take your army through a sort of crusade-style affair a la Warhammer 40,000. There's also going to be new models. So there's the new Beast Lord that's coming out. Still haven't fixed the Minotaur. But the new Beast Lord is coming out with his twin Man Reaper axes to kick ass and take names. Pretty cool miniature, but it's a shame that we're just getting that at the moment. But there we go. The Gloomspite Gitz get their Squig boss with Nasha Squig. And I got to say, he looks amazing. I also want someone to paint him with a green cloak and do him as Dr. Doom. Because I think that would be brilliant.
I was about to do a Batman and Robin reference, actually.
That would also be
the fact that the Squig is masked so nobody knows who they are. But at the same time, also Riddler vibes with that staff. Yeah. I mean, there are just so many.
If you can put a little pair of like green Y-fronts on the Squig, then I'm up for that. But there we go.
You do you.
There's also another set for the Gloomspite Gitz. They're getting their Snarlfang Riders, their Wolf Riders, done in the kind of updated style of the classic Wolf Riders that a lot of people will know, mixing a little bit of Dogs of War there at the same time, which is quite nice. Very cool. But yeah, the thing that's really interesting about these, and I think we talked about them at the time, or maybe it was in the news story that I did for them, is that they've got, while they're clearly been designed so that they fit into that kind of mold of the Mortal Realms in kind of scale and proportions and things, there's a lot of stuff about them that is very old worldy in that regard as well. And I could very easily see these riding into battle alongside classic sort of rank and file armies at the same time. Once you change the bases, of course. Yeah. But some interesting stuff there for the Gloomspite Gitz if you want to go in a different direction. It's quite nice. And then last but not least, we have 2 new Vanguard sets that are coming out. So there's going to be a Vanguard set for the Beast of Chaos and one for the Gloomspite Gitz that come with everything you need to get started with a low points cost army on the tabletop. I hope you like painting fur if you're playing Beastmen, because there's a lot of that going around. And also flesh. I hope you like painting flesh, man.
These days, there's so many.
Contrast will do this so easily. Yes, very true. You could burn through these, I reckon, in a couple of days over the weekend, and then you've got those big dragon ogres. Sorry, that you could have fun with and put a little bit of more attention into. But essentially,
you're going to spend most of your time trying to make the legs bend on those, because their front legs just look like they look like they're in plaster casts.
Yeah, they do.
It looks like that meme of the cat with his leg in Smarty tubes. Like, there's no bend in that at all. I hate that so much.
Wrap some green stuff around those and turn them into Smarties tubes. And Jerry will be very pleased.
I'll be very happy. That's right. I've got 24 of the lead ones. I don't care.
But yeah, grab that and the Beast Lord and you'd be more than away. And then for the Gloomspite Gitz, we've also got your Squig boss and stuff. They're rocking around with the new Troggoths and plenty of Squigs and Night Goblins as well. So have fun with that one. And dive in and create yourself a new army for 2023 maybe.
That's a funner looking set.
Yes. Yeah. I think in general, the goblins as a whole, I think are pretty fun, really. So,
but I'm looking at it going points wise. I mean,
the Troggoths make up a lot of the points, I think.
I just have a feeling, but Dragon Ogres were the most expensive monster in the old world. I don't know what the points are like in Age of Sigmar, but they were like at least a third more expensive than any troll or ogre. So you've got 3 of them. So right off the bat, you could ignore the Troggoths. Can the Squig Hoppers and 20 goblins take on that, including Bestigor? And I don't think they can. I think they'll get green smeared all over the walls of whatever cave they've bounced out of.
Very true.
But they look very good.
They look nice, They're great models. And I actually quite like that the Troggoths retain a lot of their character from the early Stone Trolls that they did. Yeah. From back, they're still blue. They've still got the bigger sort of like dumb, big.
I'm just assuming this is all Stone Trolls, Squig Hoppers, and Goblins. That's how I view them all. I don't.
That is essentially how. Yeah.
You can try and change a marathon's name to Snickers, but it's still a marathon.
But some interesting things for you to have fun with there when it comes to the Mortal Realms and Warhammer. There we go.
Okie dokie. Well, what's up next then, Ben?
So next up, we're going to be looking at all the stuff that was announced from the LVO this week. Me and Jerry are here. Everyone else has buggered off.
They've ran off and left us.
Yeah, wibbly wobbly. Anyway, yes. So we're going to be looking at everything that was announced this week from Games Workshop for the for Warhammer 40,000, Warhammer Age of Sigmar, and a whole bunch of their skirmish games at the same time as well. We start things off in the only place you can start things off when it comes to Warhammer 40,000, and that's Space Marines.
Of course.
Of course
it is. Yeah.
So they're going to be getting a new Strike Force set that will then, obviously, all these components will be available separately later on down the line. The big part of the new Strike Force Augustus box, what a silly name, is the new Brutalis Dreadnought, as you can see there.
I'm aghast.
One of the most worst kept secrets in 40k, that there was a close combat dreadnought coming up. So this one is, this is no longer the preserve of the Blood Angels, even though you can see it clearly in Blood Angels colours there. This is going to be available to all chapters. I'm immediately going to be replacing the Redemptor that I had in my close combat army with this dreadnought and use it. It's got guns on its hips, Jerry.
It's got guns on its hips. It's got guns on its wrists. It's possibly even, it's got a gun on top.
Yeah,
guns everywhere.
Yeah,
it's guns for days, is I believe what the kids say.
These kits are actually really nice and posable as well, actually. So it'll be fun to see what people do with these for dioramas and things like that. I like the idea of one like ripping apart a Tyranid or something as it blasts holes in it with its guns or something. That could be kind of cool.
I'm trying to work out if that's a Hurricane bolter on the side of its arm down here, because that looks like 3 bolters in a row. Do they still do Hurricane bolters?
It might be one of those like fragmentation launchers, because I think the bolt is on the other wrist, and that's probably like a
on this one it's got a twin
so you can tinker around with the different bolters, options.
Plenty of guns everywhere. I'm
Yeah,
still not sure why. I mean, in the middle of the things on its hips, it's very peculiar. All you have to do is stand right in front of it, and it can't shoot.
Yeah, just hide underneath the codpiece, and you'll be fine.
Just runs straight at it.
Exactly.
Hit that sweet spot where it can't fire it.
Before it steps on you.
Yeah, ripped apart by big claws.
But so you've got the Brutalis Dreadnought there, which is coming in the set alongside the new Desolation Squad. So do you like missiles on your missiles? Well, here's some missiles. So this isn't a replacement for the Devastator Squad that currently exists, because that obviously has lots of different weapon options, from las cannons to plasma cannons and everything else in between. This is basically a set of 5 Primaris Space Marines who come armed with a bevy of frag and crack missiles that they can fire at their opponents.
Super frag and super crack.
Yes, because that's the easiest way to designate that it's better than a normal crack, I guess. But I'm not so sure on these. I'm not sure. I don't really like the toy factor of them. I think it's a bit weird.
There's a lot of. It's like everybody has cobbled together their own orc shooter.
Yes.
No 2 weapons are the same. There's nothing standardized here, which is a bit weird. I know obviously you used to get things where maybe the sergeant in a unit would have something different or special, but, Gatling guns with a range of random things stuck on top. And that's, of course, the specific things will only fire crack or frag. So you've got square boxy ones for super crack and round ones for super frag, maybe. Don't know how they're designating it, but
clearly designed for blowing up large amounts of units, I would imagine.
Apparently you can hit your opponent in their deployment zone, so that's going to be good for the old turn 1 alpha striking, isn't it?
Yeah. Aim to the skies, boys.
I'm putting all my stratagem points in plus bonus for my first turn roll.
There's also going to be a new Primaris Lieutenant model. Yay.
You shocked me. Yay.
This one's been designed as a kit that allows you to make all of the different options from the profile. So previous to this, you've had them in very kind of not static, but kind of symbol configurations where it was like Power Fist and Power Sword.
It was a monopose. And there was no real...
Whereas this allows you to play around with that a little bit more, throw a plasma gun into the mix if you've got Dark Angels, which I do. You've also got Power Sword, Power Fist, Heavy Bolter, and all that kind of, Heavy Bolt Pistol or Heavy Bolt Rifle. I think that's how they designate it now. I can't remember. Oh, God, there's so much stuff.
All start to blur.
Yeah. But pretty nice little model there, but obviously just a Primaris Lieutenant.
And the first time the Primaris Lieutenant gets a Power Fist.
Exactly, for crunching things.
Out. People have often said they're not good enough in close combat.
Well,
they require some help there.
Now they are.
Now they are.
Yeah. Now we know.
Yeah. So, moving away from the generic and into the very chapter specific.
Yeah. So the Arcs of Omen is currently underway, and Vashtor is the one that has allied himself with Abaddon to take over the galaxy and plunge the Imperium into darkness. So in the new box set, which is Wrath of the Soulforged King, we're going to be seeing the Dark Angels led by Azrael leading the fight against Vashtor on the tabletop. There's going to be a new box where it'll be your first chance to get your hands on the new plastic figures for Vashtor and Azrael, as you can see there. But alongside that, Azrael's got a contingent of Primaris Space Marines, the Intercessors, alongside the Deathwing Terminators. And then on the other side of things, Vashtor has a band of Chaos Cultists alongside Obliterators and all those other strange mechanical creations that he has been able to warp and change. So
dribbling around, taking the fight to the Rock as well.
Exactly, yeah.
Somebody needs to tell Dwayne Johnson that he's not good at it. He needs to calm down. He looks the same in every film. Yeah.
Just let yourself get hit, dude.
I feel sorry for the Terminators these days.
Yeah, they're a bit titchy now. So
I also feel particularly sorry because Dark Angels, they're the only chapter with 100 Terminator sets.
Exactly. Yeah.
And they're just going to get junked on the scrap heap, presumably.
Well, a lot of people will be talking about the fact that we're going to get Primaris-sized Terminators at some point. But, when that is, I don't know. I guess the Deathwing are much more of an iconic force within the Terminators, so it makes sense for them to still be their original suits, I suppose.
Maybe it'll just be some sort of civil war as Terminator or Space Marine chapters go hunting down Terminators to rip their armor apart to make new Primaris Terminators.
We need you.
We need your gear. You don't deserve this.
Yeah, but that's going to be coming out in the near future. It looks pretty cool. Obviously, vibes of the whole idea that we're going to be seeing Lionel Johnson come back as a Primarch very soon.
Who would have thunk he would have been the second one out of the gates?
He's going to be very annoyed with his brother, I think. So.
Well, I think everybody's always been annoyed with Reboot for some time. Yeah. So that's going to be the third book, but we do have Angry Ron in between.
Yeah, so Angron's going to be the next book, which is coming very soon. Then there's Vashtor, and then there's the last book, which has been designated Ordo Xenos there, and a lot of people think it's going to be a Farsight book. So watch out for that one for the town. Yeah, moving back in time as well, we're going to be talking about the Horus Heresy, and there's a new tank that was revealed, just the smallest of previews for the Horus Heresy, this one. But it's the Cerberus Heavy Tank Destroyer. It's a small preview, but it's a big tank.
It is a big tank, so replacing the Forge World version.
Yep, so begone resin, hello plastic. Armed with a whole array of different guns, including those culverings on the side and things like that, but you can switch things out as and when you see fit. But it also comes with that big quad laser on the front for burning through tanks, infantry, and it might even chop the leg off a Titan if you're lucky enough. So,
well, it's one way of doing it, certainly. They didn't mention whether or not this has a base to the tank, but we presume it does.
But yeah, well, you'd hope so.
not Flintstoning it around the place.
Horus Heresy people tend to be a lot more aggravated by things like that. So.
Well, that's true. They did say this will also have rules for the 41st millennium, so it's not restricted to the Horus Heresy.
Yep.
So expect to see these on tabletops everywhere immediately as the arms race continues to escalate.
Very much so.
Why can't we all just get along, Ben? Why can't we all just get along?
There is only war, Jerry. There is only war.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah. Moving away from the Horus Heresy, we're going to be diving into some skirmish games from the grim dark future. So there's going to be a new kill team set on the way, which is called Soul Shackle, which is quite a fun name considering the two forces fighting off here. Soul for the Drukhari, Shackle for the Arbites.
I see what they've done there.
Or Arbites, is it Arbites they call them?
I've always called them Arbites.
Arbites, yeah. But yes, so this is going to be a new kill team set, which comes with, as you might have imagined, two new kill teams. The first of these is probably the one that everybody was the most excited about.
Yep.
It's the Exaction Gimp Force. Just the Exaction Force.
Just the Exaction.
Yeah.
That head second from the left there is not the best head to be going into boarding action with. I mean, I'm not entirely certain what's going on with that.
Yeah.
But they did say there's enough components within the set to do 34 individual troopers. So presumably there are enough heads in there to chuck that one on the scrap heap. Or into a Slaneshi Chaos Force.
Probably, yeah, that'd be the way to go. But yeah, so the Adeptus Arbites have decided that somebody is on the Gale of Dark and they need to be retrieved. And so they're going to blast everybody out of the way in order to get a hold of them. And this is obviously going to be the first time that we've seen the Arbites on the tabletop in a very, very long time. I think the last time we saw anything even close to this was probably the Barbaretta 54mm Inquisitor model, I guess, with her canine, I suppose. But
I'm
yeah,
trying to think whether they came out before the last squad version. Or she
maybe.
Came out after.
I think it must have been after, you'd think, but because I think Arbites have always been like a rogue tradery style thing, haven't they? Really, in that regard,
they were rogue trader, but they were also added to Necromunda, and they revamped so that the squared off long autocannon on this guy came in with the second version of the Arbites.
Right.
Well, actually, it's the third version because there was rogue, and then there was the early stuff for second edition, and then I think fifth maybe. But yeah,
there you go. Yeah. But obviously, we've seen the Palanite enforcers up until this point in the likes of Necromunda, but that's obviously a lot more focused on Necromunda and them being this almost police force kind of thing. Whereas with this, we're seeing them change things up, obviously, with a little bit more of a strike force. Looking pretty good. I'm sure people will drop these into their games. So
they're moving away from the dread look somewhat.
Apart from the shoulder pads.
Apart from the shoulder pads. But what they've done is it's almost like they've taken the blend of the old school models and the Sisters of Battle with the Sally Helm style, because they didn't have that Sally, they just had visors. Which makes sense because these originally started as the soldiers of the priesthood on planets. So I like that blending. It works, and they've not gone absolutely radio rental. Yeah,
they've not gone overboard
with the detail and stuff on it. The armor itself is relatively nondescript, which I like. So I think those are going to be massive.
I think so. Obviously, these are going to be useful for Kill Team, but we've already seen that they're going to have rules for 40k as well, because they were hinted at in the boarding action set. So if you wanted to do boarding actions with your Arbites, then you can do that as well. We're assuming they're going to be agents of the Imperium, so they'll probably have some rules that will sort of fit in that way. So you can use them alongside your sisters and everyone else in between.
You would imagine so.
Good. Oh, very nice models. Probably my favourites of the whole thing. But
I think so.
We also have essentially what's an upgrade sprue for the Drukhari, who are going to be the Dark Eldar enemies of the Arbites in this set. It's essentially a Cabalite Warriors box, really, but it comes with additional upgrade components for you to make them into the Hand of the Archon, which is the kind of named kill team that you see here. Drukhari have always been pretty badass, and I quite like what they've done with these ones here. I like some of the additional components and things.
They've not gone mad with it. A few extra heads, some extra bits of detail, the weird Webway Cyber Raven Bird thing.
Yeah.
This lady chucking a pair of grenades at somebody.
Exactly.
Which is,
I really like that.
Interesting when it lands. Yeah. But I mean, it's a new sprue for what is a relatively new, I say relatively new, it's probably about 10 years old now. The good.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's not as it's not as old as the Guardians. Well, it's not as long as the Guardians had to wait. So,
not by a long shot. So they didn't need a huge amount doing to it. So just an upgrade sprue that you can play about with for the smaller skirmish games makes a lot of sense.
A little bit like what we saw for the Pathfinders and stuff we'd seen in previous releases for Kill Team and things like that. This obviously is a Kill Team set, so it comes with new terrain. So again, we're sort of venturing down into the Gallowdark. So you're going to get a selection of the new terrain, as you can see. Well, the new sort of wall sections and holes and that kind of thing. But there's a few additional, So that's where things have sort of been added to here. So you get all those new objectives and scatter terrain bits, including, as they said, a hollow board where there's the layout of your Kill Team game on it already, which I think is kind of cool.
Kill Teamception.
Kill Team section. There's also the blasted sections of the walls. So now you can add like breaching mechanics into things and blow holes through walls and that kind of stuff, which makes sense with the Arbites being in the mix. So
we're also saying that I don't know if they'd mentioned this before, but with this, every iteration in the season, you're essentially advancing towards the bridge on the Gallowdark.
Oh, yeah.
So this is another room as you're getting closer towards the final objective of taking the ship.
I really like that. Yeah.
So I expect to see more things like the objective sets coming in whenever you sort of hit the next one.
That'll be really awesome
that way to sort of differentiate between the various sections of the ship and the more controlling objectives. So
yeah.
But yeah,
very nice little set of things there for Kill Team. I think everybody's just going to be on board with the Arbites. I think they're going to be the big hit for a lot of people. Plenty of old Hammer vibes, whilst also embracing new sculpting techniques and that kind of thing. Mix them in with your naval breacher teams and all that kind of good stuff, and you've got a very nice kind of melting pot of Imperial troops to play around.
I like how the very first person who's about to jab somebody in the face with a shock baton is the medic.
Yes,
just to steer. I will beat the flames out of
you. Because he'll probably kill him with the medical case. That'll be
so they didn't just talk about the 41st millennium.
No.
And also sci-fi. There was a lot of stuff coming for Age of Sigmar, all points.
Yeah. So lots of interesting stuff for the Mortal Realms. We'll start with the Warcry box that's coming out, which is called Blood Hunt. As you might have imagined, it's full of people that like blood. So this is a new set which comes with 2 new warbands. Leading the way are the Uskurgan Trueblades. So these are soul-blight vampires who have kind of kept themselves away from the other soul-blight gravelords in so much as that they are trying to abstain from drinking blood and like turning into monsters.
A monastic order attempting to stave off the red thirst.
They're not all bad.
No. Genevieve was a really nice vampire.
She was.
She was a great vampire. Just because the rest of them should knuckle down.
Pretty much, yeah. So this is made up of a bunch of very martially adept vampires, all that sinewy muscle and all that kind of good thing. You will notice that there are a few of the Trueblades that have potentially not been able to keep to their mantras, and so you have the slightly twisted, werewolfy formed versions of the Uskurgans there as well. So that's when they don't quite manage to keep a hold of their inner feeding frenzy, but as was pointed out, they can come back from it, and so that's where that chap at the top.
So the pariahs are ones who have warged out, gone off to the forest for a while, find themselves and come back, and people are going, but have you really? Very interesting Oriental theme. Very ninja with your
very cool to see
rice hooks on the end of ropes and that sort of thing. I wonder if this will be a nod to obviously they're going to go back to the old world, and they're going right off book by doing things that weren't in the old world before, particularly much like Kislev, but will they also push towards Cathay and Nippon?
Well, Cathay was in Total War, so hopefully we'll see them.
Which is this may be a sort of a style teaser,
an opening of that kind of thing. But going against the Trueblades, we have some followers of Khorne. So these are the claws of Karanak. So Karanak's the big, monstrous, demonic Khorne beast,
3-headed hellhound.
And these guys really like flesh hounds, as you can see by their headdresses and that kind of thing. They're pretty typically chaos in that regard, going to be charging forward, ripping people to pieces, flensing their skin from their bodies and mashing everything up into pulp and offering up skulls to the Skull God. So
that's the one. Yeah. There's somebody who's either heading towards Demon Princehood or heading towards Chaos Spawnish.
Yeah. I think it's just a Chaos Furry, I think.
He's just decided he realized with flesh hound, I'm going to run about on all fours. That is a frightening thought. I mean, nobody wants to see that.
But very cool little set of models there as well. This is the first Warcry box where I absolutely love both factions.
Both sides,
so might end up buying it with a friend. There we go.
Fair enough.
But so that's the new Warcry set. Obviously comes with new terrain as well. So this kind of adds to the existing Warcry terrain. So you can mix and match things as you see fit. But obviously if you buy this set, it comes with everything you need to start playing the game straight away. So,
and all that bamboo styly scenery. Once again, very Eastern.
Yes. Very
That's
nice.
what you want in life.
Watch out for that coming soon. Looks very cool. Nice bit of skirmishing in the Mortal Realms. Always a nice way to go. We also had a little bit of a teaser for Warhammer Underworlds as well. And that was the addition of Grizel's Aranai. So these are your Daughters of Cain, your gladiators from Marathi's army. They have some fun and interesting rules in terms of how they get inspired during gameplay. They have to perform like special moves that kind of match them. So it might be like getting a kill in the third round or killing someone in a particular way and all that kind of stuff.
And mobilizing somebody in the net.
Yes. And that's how they will become inspired in the game and get access to more abilities and all that kind of good stuff. pretty fun little set that's, as they kind of talked about, a glass cannon in many regards.
Yeah.
So, not exactly the most protected of ladies.
No, but they flip out like ninjas.
They do.
So
Acrobatic.
you actually have to land a blow on them. Apparently, their dodge is through the roof. So
Which
even
is
if somebody
wild.
manages to land a few hits on them, they're just going to sneak past that.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see whether or not anybody actually manages to pin them down long enough to batter them to death. I'm getting Hellboy versus Prince Nuada vibes. He leaps around.
That's a good way of doing it.
Yeah. Just need to grab them by the neck and batter them.
Yeah. But so some interesting stuff there for the skirmish games in the model realms, but that's not all. We've also got a new set of battle tomes coming out throughout winter. Well, we're obviously going to be seeing the Beast Lords and stuff as we looked at earlier. Coming out this year. Springtime will introduce 5 more books.
5 in
which is
3
insane.
months.
Yeah. And
my God, I'm glad I'm not trying to keep up with that anymore.
Wouldn't it be fun if both of those battle tomes were replacements for each other? So it came out with like Soul Blights, and they went, aha, but wait, and then Soul Blights again.
Soul Blights Part 2.
Yeah, but summer is the season of the Seraphon.
Yeah.
Sounds like it should be a song. And we also got to look at some of the new Seraphon models that are going to be coming out for that as well. So we've got a new Slann Starmaster, which is your new big, massive mage character for your games. Comes with loads of different options for you to use during your games. And sort of creating your own personalized Slann. We had a version of Lord Croak that came out a couple of years ago now, sort of in its mummified form.
Inside that floating stone gyroscope thing.
Yes. But this is your kind of standard Slann, if you can be standard as a Slann, I guess. But really nice little collection of bits and pieces for making your own personalized model here, with obviously the Slann in the center, and then you've got your skink attendants on either side. And there's loads of different ways for you to kind of add to it with little critters and accessories. Everyone was obsessed with the frog. So
yeah, well, you would be. You should be painted green. We always need to have a Kermit the Frog on the tabletop. That's the important thing.
We also got these Raptidon Hunters. Well, so this is the Raptidon set, which can be built in 2 different ways. The Hunters are your slightly more ranged, focused characters. Obviously, there's a dinosaur involved, so everything's melee. But these are your these have been brought up from the spawning pits by the Slann to help the Seraphon in their endeavors.
It's hitting and running time.
Very kind of Aztec Mayan in design, obviously, especially as we were talking about off camera, the kind of sort of mask, but also bony face on kind of thing going on.
The Raptidons, it's probably, I don't know whether it's the short snout or the very angular nature of it. The rest of the body, I think, looks great. I like the fluttery wings, the big crests. I think the head's a little snub-nosed for me on the actual mount. But they're starting to drop more of the sort of tech in as well. Presumably those are some sort of energy mace that they're lamping people with, because when you're skink, you're not going to do much damage with a regular stone mace. I don't care how quickly the raptor's moving.
It's the Mortal Realms equivalent of a stun stick from the Arbites that we saw earlier.
Very much so, Right forward and batter.
Pretty cool. We also got a new upgrade for the Saurus. So they have been a kit that's been in service for a very, very long time now. And they're finally getting an upgrade to look even more beefy and badass than they already did. I've always loved the idea of Saurus and Croxagore, and I think these kind of supplant the old Saurus and be like, no, this is how badass they are. They are so cool.
Again, it has that slight tech coming in with the shields.
Yes.
And then the standard there, you see the same sort of
glowing
one style circuitry creeping in that you see on the back of the Slann. Where's the back of the Slann? There we go. Right in the back of his chair. That Necron Tomb Worldy old one style circuitry is starting to weave its way into the shields.
Makes a whole lot of sense.
Yep. But those are cracking models.
Yeah. So a fun little set there. And obviously you can paint them as Coalesced or the Starborn. I can't remember. Something like that. So you can have either the Seraphon that live up in Azir, or you can have the ones that live down on the surface of the Mortal Realms and have coalesced slightly. And look at that big old lizard man dong.
I was trying not to, but you keep pointing it out.
I will continue to, because that's quite the package.
Yep.
Fun in the spawning pools. Yeah,
always fun in the spawning pools.
But,
Right. On that note, I think we need to calm Ben down.
Did you win one of our prizes? Find out on our prize claim center over at OnTableTop.com. Here we list all our previous prizes and those who have won. If you see your username, fill out the form to claim your prize. All prizes must be claimed within 30 days.
Right. Enough of that. It's time to round out the show, and we have a couple of campaigns to look at this week. And first things, we're going a bit comic booky again. Ooh. However, this time round, you're not playing the good guys. You're playing the bad guys with Escape from Arkham Asylum by Night Games. So, in this, you are any of the major criminals who kick around in the DC universe. I like Rorschach is in there as well. Technically a good guy, is he though? But things have kicked off in Arkham, and you and the other inmates are attempting to get out of Dodge. However, there are a few impediments in your way, not least of which are things like the other inmates who maybe have gone a little bit hairy-scary while they've been inside and don't want other people to escape, or the prison guards, or the GC police squad, or indeed Bat. So they've been firing through the pledges or the stretch goals fairly quickly, which means you're getting things like expansions already. So Nightwing based instead of Bat coming creeping through Arkham. Arkham should just be on top of a very tall cliff in the middle of some sort of huge lake of acid somewhere. Yeah. Because the amount of times people escape from it, it's not really, it's a secure prison for the mentally insane, and it's not doing its job in any way, shape, or form.
No rehabilitation here.
The recidivism rate is massive in Arkham. To be fair, Harley there was one of the doctors who was attempting to coach there, and she fell so fast. Potentially, they're all like that.
Harleen Quinzel,
the Doctor. Yeah. The only comic book character who came from the TV series.
Yeah.
They made her there, and it was like, this is great. This, I really like the patient skin set. If people were quick enough to get in on the start, I think it was a free add-on for the first 24 hours. However, it's various criminals in just some of their get-up gear. So the Joker's in his straitjacket. Two-Face is rocking a mop and bucket. And Poison Ivy has got a little potted cactus and a little watering can. She's just doing some work in the garden. Still not entirely certain what the Scarecrow's up to. It's best not to ask. Best not. Just move along from him.
Scary people.
Yeah. So the gameplay itself, we've done a video on it, myself and Shay, where I believe Shay was playing Bane and bludgeoning his way through, while I pretty much failed at all the roles ever. But at least,
very, very typical of you, Jerry.
Yeah, it is.
Doesn't that describe every game we play?
Pretty much every game. But when you're playing, you're working out from, like, it's a hexagonal-based rooms and corridors, but they're randomized whenever you build your board, so the places you're going to aren't always the same. And there are so many Night Models characters that have been plucked from the DC universe for this, and from the various sort of strands of comic bookisms. So you've got the incredibly comic book, down to the Penguin looking more like the Penguin, and then Danny DeVito's creepy ass Penguin from the Tim Burton film. That really shows just depending on what flavor of Batman you want in your life, you can have lovely Penguin, or get that away from me.
Evil Penguin.
God, seriously, what is that black stuff leaking from us? Oh, he's just wrong. He's not right. He's 100% wrong. But so many playable characters, and just some of the bizarre and peculiar. The Condiment King. One gun fires ketchup, one gun fires mustard. Because, I think I seen Eraserhead was up there as well. Yeah, the Eraser is up there. I mean,
It
obviously,
is definitely the rogues gallery.
100% it is.
Yeah.
But whenever you're playing, all of the characters have their own unique abilities and sort of special actions they can do based on what they are. I mean, raising your tracks so you can make a stealthy getaway. That's going to be interesting how they actually work that in gameplay wise. It'll be a little bit.
Why is a razor man upside down? Don't ask.
It's best not to. It's really best not to. But yeah, like I say, they've been going gangbusters through this. I really enjoyed the Let's Play. We played a very early version of it with prototype rules, so I think there's a few issues in there that had to be.
Yeah, there's a few sort of pointers when
yeah.
things have been changed, and there's some bits in the description as well. But in essence, it walks you through exactly how to play the game, really.
Yeah. So the whole part and parcel is you're planning your escape, and I think I mentioned it in the video, you're making your plan on toilet roll. So that's why that's that sort of unusual gradient there. Crane and toilet roll. That's how you make your plan to escape. And it's very comic booky. It's like, we'll go here, we'll pick up the watering can, we'll put it above the door, we'll drop it on somebody's head. You need to go and get that guy's leg. Bit Rocket Raccoon, I know. But anyway, you put your plan together, you run around the asylum trying to get them without being caught, or worse, without Batman coming screaming out of the shadows at you. And battering the living bejesus out of you.
He does hit like a truck.
He does hit like a Mack truck. But yeah, fascinating little game from Night Models, and the figures, I believe, are going to be EVC plastic, one piece.
They are, yeah.
So even though they're using comparable sculpts to the stuff that they do themselves in Spain, these are all going to be color coded one piece plastics. Beans came right at me. Easy there, Tiger.
Yeah. The other thing that's really nice about it is it's got like a lot of replay value built in, apparently. So the way that you set out the asylum can be different every turn.
Yeah.
Obviously, playing as the different characters, they've all got asymmetrical abilities and stuff like that. It's semi-cooperative as well, so there's no reason why you can't shove people into rooms full of guards and lock the door and all that kind of thing. So
I don't think we played particularly friction-based play, because we looked at the damage that they were imposing on us and the fear of Batman incoming. It's just like, I want to get out of this asylum. We're working together. But you can see, I mean, the models themselves look fantastic, and the game's an interesting take on the usual. There's good old jazz.
Yeah, you'll also obviously find these very helpful if maybe you do play the Batman miniatures game.
Well, that's it, because
to build
everything's
up your
on the app
as well.
now.
You
don't need to buy the miniatures to get the cards, which means all of these are accessible and usable then as various types of police, criminals, ne'er-do-well standbys. And
I really like the poses they've done for a lot of the characters, where one of the things with some of the Night Models collection for Batman is that you get them with some like larger basing materials, or maybe like Batman's on top of a cathedral half the time or something.
Yeah,
I think they've done a really nice job, because obviously you're running through an asylum, of just having them on quite sort of clean basing in this regard, so it makes it a little easier for to kind of visualize stuff on the tabletop, in my opinion. Anyway,
I can't be 100% certain, because like I said, we had 3D print prototypes, but I have a sneaking suspicion that those bases will fit into the top of the round lip base that they use in the miniatures game anyway as base toppers. I just have that feeling that they're the same size.
Oh yeah, a lot of people are going to be using them for that anyway.
It's whether or not they fit easily into the round lip base, or whether you're going to have to start filling it up.
I think it'd be awesome to see a clash with Killer Croc at the end, where like it's not Batman, that you're like, I can hear something in the vent. Oh god, it's not Batman, it's Croc. He just bursts through, starts rampaging down the corridors.
It's fine as long as you're playing Bane. That's fine.
Just a full-on muscle off.
broke his arms once before, he'll do it again. Just leave him lurking in the sewers. So you've got your residents, you've got your patients, you've got your bosses, and then the whole page is full of toilet roll to plan your escapes like that. So it should be a fascinating game if you're a fan of specifically Batman in the DC comic book line. It's it's a bit different, and everybody always goes to Arkham at some point in the comics, always. So I'm curious to see if anybody else comes creeping out of the darkness. some of them are very, I mean, Condiment Man, he's obviously got his guns there, mustard and ketchup, but will we see Firefly or some of the other Mad Hatter, people like that? Because they're always good for a laugh. And I just like the idea of playing the Rogues Gallery. And
I think one of the Court of Owls is
battling
in there
people.
at the moment as well. So
Talon himself, I think, has been chucked in as the most recent unlock. So
some of the best stuff from Batman. That so
say some of the best stuff. If you are a Batman fan, by the way, the Doom That Came to Gotham, which is a Cthulhu Elseworlds series, has just been announced as coming out as an animated film.
Ooh.
So I see the trailer the other day. If you've never read it, then maybe you'll watch the cartoon. Everybody loves Cthulhu. It's always
also
good.
R.I.P. Kevin Conroy, best Batman, hands down. There we go.
Adam West, but
Boo!
a close second. There are 11 days left over at the Game Found campaign for Escape from Arkham Asylum. And we have a final Kickstarter. And this one is very dear to my heart as well. And probably dear for my wallet. I've managed to avoid clicking on it since it launched.
Well, here we go.
Yeah. Well, we all know how this is going to work.
This is from Diehard Miniatures, which is Tim Prow and his team, including the likes of Chaz Elliott and Drew Williams, amongst other amazing artists. But this is the Battle for Blackmere. And this is the first of a set of campaigns for this year from Diehard, which is looking at expanding their fantasy range and in particular their undead. So this is focusing on bringing, as you can see there, 50 plus new undead miniatures into the range, kicking off with the kind of core of this. They've already been funded well in advance of of today, essentially. So the core of it was going to be a set of 6 5-man foot troop units, essentially, which would have given you 25 miniatures, really, which would have given you the kind of core that you would have needed for any undead warband or army. So you got your sort of your foot troops with swords and shields, spears, you got your archers and all that kind of good stuff there. But then as they've progressed through the campaign, they have added loads of additional characters, cavalry models, monsters, everything you could think of for building a proper awesome undead army. That is the Sir Tristan of Blackmere limited edition miniature that is only available as part of the campaign, as Jerry goes to click pledge. And there you can see some of the new sets they're bringing out. So you've got your Skeleton Warriors there, Skeleton Warriors, alongside Bowman and all sorts of different things. If you don't remember that Saturday morning cartoon, I feel bad for you. I feel bad for you, son.
Too old. I used to watch Saturday Morning Starship and Swap Shop.
But then, as you can see, things got like familiars and all sorts of things that have been added into the mix. The stretch goals is where they've just gone like ham on everything. And this tends to happen with the Die-Hard campaigns. They're kind of like, oh, we only want to fund 25 miniatures. Here are 50 miniatures. And they just sort of throw them at people to have fun with. It should be pointed out, obviously, these have all been done in that kind of old hammery style. So if you're a fan of classic Citadel, Grenadier and that kind of thing, then these would be a very good option for you to sort of add into the mix. But of course, everybody loves this style of miniature nowadays for a whole range of their different games, especially with a lot of so many miniature agnostic systems out there that these would be handy for. Sorry there, Chris Caesar. I said miniatures agnostic. And I know you don't like that, but there we go.
All miniature games are miniature agnostic.
But yes. We've got a whole host of different options for you to choose from there. And there's various different pledge levels as well. So you can get just the new stuff. You can expand it with all the stretch goals. You can go back and pick up some of their existing line as well. So if you want to go down that route, you can. I think Tim Prow and his team have done themselves proud with this one. And it's chock-a-block with awesome skeletons for you to be having fun
crossbows. I mean, the nice thing is because they are a unit of 5 unique models with a certain weapon type.
Yeah.
If you're playing Oathmark or something, you can pick up multiples. If you're playing Frostgrave, where you just need the occasional one-ring pack of something, one pack of each, away you go, and be all that you can be. I mean, crossbows are good. Those mounted Skelly Spear are great. I really like those. A little
bit of Die-Hard Miniatures lore that I found from listening to Jordan Sorcery. It's a very good YouTube channel. back in the early days of 40k, the Snake Men were developed as a kind of like alien race, and nothing ever really came of them. Well, if you want to go and look through the Diehard Miniatures sort of collection as a whole, they did an entire army essentially of Snake Men for you to pick from. So
they've got both flavors, sci-fi and fantasy as well.
Yeah, the Ekukin or something, I think they've called them. But yeah, if you are like, I want some old Hammer Snake Men to use in my sci-fi games, go and check it out. See what you think. So,
yeah. Oh, Sir Gawain's unlocked. He wasn't this morning whenever I looked. That's good. He's a bit bilious, bit plaguey on it. He's a bit more rotten than Skelly Bobbin.
Yes.
But you know, it takes all sorts.
Yeah.
All sorts. So Crypt Mummies next. Unmounted, riderless Skelly Steeds. They're always handy to have. And a skeleton unicorn. I've just got a living unicorn today from another company. Maybe I need a skeleton version. I'm just saying, maybe. That Warrior Infernal unit. For whites. We'll just go down there. Actually, well, no, we'll be good. Mind me.
Tippy tap of keyboard.
You sharp now. There's 13 days left for the Battle of Blackmere. Already funded as well. So if you fancy going a bit fantasy-esque, then yes, Diehard's a great one to check out. I think that's enough for today. We've been up for some time.
God, yes.
There's been a lot going on.
Yeah.
Right. We shall return next Friday for more of the same, but if that is too far away, join us on Sunday. Come on. Come over on tabletop.com. Join a cult. Be a cultist. You know you want to. It'll make you happy. You can have a 30-day free trial. See? Can't say further than that. Come on. Do it. Do it. See you Sunday. Bye-bye.
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.